Controlling your valve train is one of the most important tasks at hand when you build with any high-performance engine. At Erson, we make single, double, and triple coil valve springs for many different engines and applications. We'll be going over sound rules to remember when it comes to choosing the right racing valve springs for your engine. Understanding how valve springs work, along with knowing their impact on other valve train components, is the first step in this process. Your engine's valve springs are responsible for opening and closing intake and exhaust valves, as well as keeping the lifter in contact with the camshaft and keeping the rest of the valve train under control during engine operation. The primary factors to take into account when you're selecting valve springs for your performance engine are first, the amount of valve lift, and second, the expected RPM of the engine. As engine speed increases, so does inertia. This refers to valve train resistance to changes in speed and direction. Most engine builders set up valve springs to be approximately 50 to 60 thousandths of an inch from coil binding at max valve lift. Setting up the valve springs this way helps provide a stable, uniform shape when the valve closes. If there's excessive gap between the coils, the valve spring becomes unstable, and it can lead to premature failure of the spring. Once engine RPM and max valve lift are calculated, knowing the aggressiveness of the camshaft profile is the next step. An aggressive lobe design, also known as a square lobe, is a profile that moves the valve off its seat to max lift very quickly. If the profile is too aggressive, the lifter can lose contact with the camshaft, resulting in loss of valve train control. This can also lead to camshaft lobe damage when the lifter and valve spring pressure come crashing back down on the camshaft. Next, we'll take a look at valve spring pressures and designs. Springs should have single, double, or triple coils. The coil design your engine needs depends on how much valve spring pressure is required to keep the lifter in contact with the camshaft. Engines that use flat tappet lifters are usually set between 120 and 140 pounds of valve spring seat pressure. If an engine utilizes hydraulic roller lifters, a single or double valve spring, aiming for roughly 160 pounds of seat pressure, is a good place to start. Solid roller-equipped engines are set up with double or triple valve springs and seat pressures that range from 200 to 450 pounds of seat pressure. Selecting the proper valve spring with sufficient pressure for valve train stability is crucial. If a valve spring is selected for an engine that doesn't have sufficient pressure, a condition known as valve float can occur. Valve float refers to the condition we mentioned earlier when lifters lose contact with the camshaft and no longer follow the camshaft lobe. When valve float issues arise, we generally recommend increasing valve spring pressure or reducing rocker arm ratio. Appropriate valve spring pressure and proper installation and setup are vital to your engine's performance and longevity. High engine speeds, high valve lift, and aggressive cam profiles all require increases in spring pressures and careful attention to detail during installation. Of course, it is important to use high-quality springs in any high-performance engine. To learn more about valve springs and the rest of your valve train, visit us at pbm-erson.com for more information.